I tried to hit you up, but see the celly died. But here's another cup, baby, to get you right. So many females in this joint that I'm the only guy, and it is only right that I keep it live. So when I come around, you all know what I do. Homie, give me pounds in exchange of what it does. It's about to be up when it's no chance. Little mommy came out looking right up in that. Oh yes, I made progress. She in a coat dress, and the movements of her hips that made me focus. And you know this, man, I feel incredible. Mommy looking edible, inevitable, I'm ineffable, unethical. The woofer made me motion sick. She put the thing on me, feeling ocean thick. I'm surrounded by good music and the whole damn clique. And shot after shot, we can all get lit. Who are you going? Tryna leave without my girls knowing. She made a motion, yeah, I got the notion, yeah. She pulled me close and said, look here, I'm trying to see you in the morning. Look here, I'm trying to see you in the morning. You know I'm too live. I put the beat down and then I write the rhymes. Exchanging up the fees, do it another time. D-A-M-E, yeah you know it, so enjoy the ride. Now that you enjoy the ride, let's have a good time. Put this tape together so that you can bump it in your ride. Not looking for the limelight, I just wanna make music that don't believe in time. So come on, drinks up from A cups to D cups. Yeah, believe us, y'all cannot police us. Yeah, you need us, so don't act like you don't hear me. Put us in the trap with all this propaganda near me. On the radio, man, the music got diluted. They took all of our classics, now they think that they could use it, but with the blame though, I think we bit the bullet. Everywhere I go, y'all listen to the same bullshit. Rap concerts ain't no dancing or no boogie. All these females and y'all worry about shooting in here. Yeah, it's time I grab the mic and use it. Bring the crew together so we can kick it and cool it in here. So come on.
Ain't enough dancing in these concerts, man. Y'all be coming to these shows with all your phones out recording, and the show's right in front of you. You don't even get to enjoy it. You're too busy being a cameraman. So I want you to do, I want you to put your phone down. I want you to do this for me. I want you to go to the left. I want you to go step dip, now step dip, step dip, now step dip, step dip, step dip. Wipe the sweat off and go. Now do you. Now do you. Come on, come on, come on. Now do you. Keep breathing. Now do you. Yeah.
You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's your boy DameSmiff, and we're going to have a quick discussion about how the market in the music industry is going to be changing into the future. So if you're interested in conversations like this, make sure you hit the like button so that more people can catch this content, and then also hit the subscribe button so that way you can catch my latest videos. So today we're actually going to be discussing how, like I said, the market's going to be changing, but it's going to be changing in the sense of how artists can make money. Many of the artists that are going to be trying to make money, like I said last stream, are going to be assuming that it's going to be based on their musical talent, but it's going to be a combination of a lot of different skills. we actually found out recently, I want to say in like the past week or so, many industries are laying off employees and things like that. But the issue many people are missing is that how you get laid off has more to do with the circumstance than it does with your value to the company. Like, it's a combination of both things, but the priority is really that there is a new wave coming to the industry, that of which then changes how you bring value to the company. So many of the musicians I talk to, when it comes to like making money and stuff, most of their options are like right up front, like playing the instrument, going to gigs, or, you know, collaborating with bands and things like that. But when you think about all the other options, like creating a new medium to make music, understanding how to create a new instrument or tool and things like that for musicians and things like that, that's usually not the forefront of their thinking. It's not until like you talk to like, you know, super technical engineers, maybe super professors and things like that, like super smart people. But for the average skilled musician, there's going to be a huge shift in how they're going to be able to make the money they need because of the circumstance. So we're going to react to a few different videos. I have a bunch up here, and we're going to get into the first one, which is actually going to talk a little bit more about this, but it's going to explain it way better than I can. So we'll get into it here.
Forecasting that musicians could see their revenues drop by nearly a quarter, a 24% hit, and it's directly because the market is just being flooded with AI-generated content. And it's
ironically enough, this is AI-generated content. So the guy talking here is not a real human. And he's actually just explaining this from, like I said last stream, probably a prompt where you can have a podcast style voice react to the content. But we're going to use our human brains to understand what's going on and then glean from it so that way we know how to make certain decisions. But it's already saying that the industry is going to see a almost 24% dip as far as the amount of access to income. It's not going to say you're not going to make as much. It's just, it's going to be harder now because there's going to be way more AI artists, AI music, and AI creations entering the arena.
musicians could see their revenues drop by nearly a quarter, a 24% hit, and it's directly because the market is just being flooded with AI-generated content.
And it's not just the music industry. For anyone in the audiovisual world, we're talking filmmakers, animators, video producers, the projected income loss is a staggering 21%. I mean, just imagine losing over a fifth of your income in just a couple of years.
And when you see these numbers side by side like this, it paints a really unavoidable picture. We are staring down the barrel of a creative economy on the verge of a major crisis, and it's hitting multiple huge sectors all at once.
But you know, it's not just about the money. The report also digs into something really troubling: how these tech shifts are taking the global inequalities that already exist and just making them way worse for artists.
I mean, this slide just lays out the digital divide in stark numbers. Having the skills to even compete in this new AI world, it's completely imbalanced. 2/3 of people in developed nations have what they need, but in developing countries, that number drops to just over a quarter.
And it goes beyond just a skills gap. The report points to a much more literal barrier, and they use its really powerful phrase for it: a visa wall.
So here's the deal. Almost all wealthy nations are happy to support their own artists traveling abroad. But when it comes to actually making it easier for artists from the global south to come in, less than 40% of them do. It's basically a one-way street, and it chokes off real cultural exchange, reinforcing whose voices get heard on the world stage.
Now, this has been happening before AI. This has been a thing when it comes to the United States. We're pretty much the manufacturer and exporter of entertainment. So if you have a really cool singer or whatever, odds are you've gone through our market. And if you made it to our market, you can pretty much make it in any other market. And so that kind of thing has already existed. And like you said, it's basically just being exacerbated by the new technology that's coming, which means if you don't have the tech to facilitate a AI digital audio workstation engine, then you can't afford to compete with those who do. And those who do are usually localized in an area, come from a certain demographic, or have access to certain resources. So then you'll get a kind of, I guess you could say, pigeonhole where you're not really going to be able to compete at all until you play the game of getting into understanding the technology. So this is kind of what I was talking about yesterday. If you don't understand the technology, you're going to get left behind. And if you refuse to learn the technology, then you will be forced to be left behind.
Okay, so with all of that, what can we actually do? Well, the good news is the report doesn't just leave us with the problems. It lays out a concrete path forward, and it's all based on a really important international agreement. It all goes back to something called the 2005 UNESCO Convention. Think of this as the foundation. It's a framework designed to protect cultural diversity and basically say, hey, art is about identity and values and meaning. It's not just another product to be bought and sold. So building on that foundation, the report is basically a giant toolkit. It offers over 8,100 examples of actual policies that governments could start using right now. We're talking everything from artist residencies to content export strategies.
And all those thousands of measures, they really boil down to 4 absolutely crucial steps.
And then when you're looking at these steps, oh yeah, you can even see down here on the right, Notebook LM, that's from Gemini. But when you think about these 4 steps, it says strengthen rights, ensure fair copyright, remuneration, I think it says remuneration for artists, invest in skills, fund digital skills, programs for creators, and integrate culture. Add cultural goals, national development plans, and then the last one is increasing funding. Boost public funding for the arts and culture. So when you look at these pillars, the first thing I notice is that it's super vague, which means that it can be co-opted from like many different angles. But the other thing is that when you identify who this is talking about, who exactly do you think of? And the tech companies have realized they can still get in on this based on the language here. So I don't know if this is like verbatim, but if this is anything related to what people are trying to actually accomplish, then this means that they're ensuring fair copyright and remuneration for artists. Does that include AI artists? And then they're going to fund digital skills programs for creators. These digital skills for creating music or digital skills for creating tech. Add cultural goals to national development plans. Well, whose culture? Boost public funding for the arts and culture. And then the very same question, whose art and culture, right? Because if it's AI art, then this is not the culture of humans. If it's some other culture of like, I don't know, just like they said, capitalism, then you're not really making art anymore, right? You're making products, which is the whole point of why you're making this movement.
Number 1, fix copyright and make sure artists are paid fairly. 2, invest in digital skills so creators can even compete. 3, recognize that culture is a vital part of the economy. And 4, put your money where your mouth is and actually increase public funding for the arts.
At the end of the day, just as the report's editor says so clearly, this is not a problem one group can solve on its own. It's going to take a real, sustained effort from governments, tech companies, and yeah, from all of us to protect the very thing that makes art so special. And this, right here, this is the rallying cry. This is about making sure technology is a tool for human expression, not a replacement for it. It's about fighting for those hundreds of hours of work, for the passion, and for that unique human perspective that an algorithm just can't replicate.
I'm gonna be real with you. This whole fight that he's talking about is over with. If you've seen the Terminator movie, we're at the scene where like they all woke up and they're walking over the hills with the rifles already. The hours of work you think you've done for your instrument or your work and your catalog and your music and stuff like that can be emulated in about 10 minutes. So trying to fight that fight is like trying to resurrect the dead. So unless you have some supernatural powers, there's no real point in doing that. So I think the better way to look at this would be to look at this from the angle of how could we take advantage of this situation while still controlling the leverage? Because what most people are trying to do is they're trying to reject it, get the leverage, and be on the right side of history at the same time. It's not going to work. You have to pick a side. And so for musicians, I think when it comes down to like how you feel about your effort and your work and stuff like that, you have to really consider why people value your work. Okay. So we talked, I think last week about being a trumpet player that plays like traditional music, and we had a folk guitar player girl who was being bootlegged by AI bots and things like that. Those things are easily emulated. So you can't think like I'm just going to be the world's hardest working German orchestral trumpet player. It's not going to work, because you then will be competing with some MIDI board that can do the exact same thing with the prompt. So now you're not looking at hours of work on the trumpet. Now you're looking at understanding, resources, and honestly strategic thinking. Like you're gonna have to use your technology smarter than everybody else. So yes, just because you can make an album is one thing, but how you make an album is different. Like you've seen it before where artists would try to couple album sales with maybe products and things like that, but you got to think outside the box in order to compete with everybody, everything, everywhere. So let's get into the next reaction clip. We have something, I think it's a little more informative, but it's going to be more of a explanation, kind of like a seminar really, but it's pretty cool. We'll check it out here.
Hang on, because I think this is really important. So most listens to AI music is actually fraud.
Yes, we're detecting right now that more than 70% of the streams done on this content is detected by our algorithm as fraudulent.
How do you detect it?
This is an example of an artist that is highly suspicious. So we're looking on every day the number of streams the users are doing on this content. Then we're also looking at the repartition between day and night. So each bar is an hour of listen. Usually we see
so
some
this is
variations.
Regular, right?
Yeah.
So it's being listened to day and night in this very
robotic
way.
Yeah. When we look at the user specifically, all of the users listening to this content are listening more than 100 times a day this artist. So it's very suspicious.
How much?
So basically what he's explaining is that they have systems to help them figure out how they're going to essentially figure out how many fake streams you're using, like people making bots, people employing bots on your behalf. It could be like a super fan being a jerk and things like that. But the way they're figuring it out is the same way banks figure out who to give proper credit scores to, right? And so if you're a streamer and you constantly get like, I don't know, 1,000 streams a month, and then suddenly that 1,000 streams a month moves from 30,000 streams a month, but it's just a huge spike and it's a consistent spike and there's no real explanation. You don't have no marketing happening. There's no album on the way. You honestly haven't done a thing different other than exist. That's a very big red flag for the people who are employed to look for this fraudulent behavior. But we're moving towards a situation where that's happening so much so fast. Like we talked a couple days ago where a dude stole about $8 million. It's happening so fast. We have to figure out how to catch it before it happens, right? It happens to authors as well. Like apparently a prominent author, his Twitter was hacked and people were basically making AI versions of his book and uploading it to Amazon. But the thing is that even though it's copywritten and it's protected and Amazon does not support this, for the week or two that it's up there on the page, they can make their money. So when you're considering that, this one artist that we're looking at probably gets like a couple thousand streams, but on a major record label scale or just somebody who has a lot of income to expend on this can be done very, very, very easily. But it's going to be a way that disrupts, like I said, the income that's available for everybody else based on the pro rata pool that everybody gets their royalties from. So if a bunch of AI bots are listening, which means aren't real listeners, and it pays the artist, two things happen. The audience is not real, so the music doesn't really get judged or assessed properly to be good or bad. And then we don't even know if it's even music that's real or created by a human. It could be a prompt. But on the other side of that, all the listeners that garner money from the streams that they use and make, the money goes straight to the record label or artists, that of which are just exploiting the opportunity. So no real art is ever being made at the end of the story.
Algorithm as fraudulent.
How do you detect it?
This is an example of games a day, this artist. So it's very suspicious.
How much money would it generate if you didn't have a system to detect this?
So without detection, we don't know where it could have gone, but it could have gone very far.
We detect 8 to 9% of the stream as being fraudulent. So as a result, we exclude them from the counting of the royalty, from the royalty pool, to make sure that all the money goes to real artists.
And so this is the CEO of Deezer, right? And Deezer realized that a lot of the music being uploaded to them is mostly AI generated. Now that creates a problem for Deezer because they have to figure out the value of their platform, right? We talked yesterday about how platforms are now trying to sell their large catalogs, or their stocks, like Spotify stocks and things like that. Because if you have Spotify or Apple Music that has the catalog of, let's say, the American pop music hits, right? It has all the American pop hits on there. But then 4 years later, that catalog goes from, let's say, 1,000 songs to 3,000 songs, but 1,500 or half of the songs are fake, AI generated. Well, the value of Apple Music's entire catalog is now lowered because you only have the American pop hits and then 1,500 fake songs that are added on there, right? And that's just you just picking numbers to make the math simple. But what they're looking at, as Deezer said, I think he said 8 or 9% of streams are basically bot listeners. They're not real. So they're paying money for the act of a robot listening to music that possibly is also made by a robot.
As being fraudulent. So as a result, we exclude them from the counting of the royalty, from the royalty pool, to make sure that all the money goes to real artists. If you implement this 8% to the world of music, it's roughly a few $1 billion, 2 to 3. So it could be a problem.
It is a problem. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro.
I'm back in London now, and I'm going through what I found out in Paris. And the picture is becoming clear, but it's so strange and dystopian that it's almost hard to process. Because what we're really looking at here is robots.
Oh, my apologies.
Hang on, because I think this is really important.
I broke the screen there.
So most listens found out in Paris.
There we go.
And the picture is becoming clear, but it's so strange and dystopian that it's almost hard to process. Because what we're really looking at here is robots trying to stop robots from listening to robot music.
Yep.
There's one number Thibaut said that really stuck in my head. On Deezer overall, with all the non-music.
Before you get to this, there's actually a great point about the robots are being used to fight robots that listen to robotic music. The real thing about that is that there's going to be an artist that's going to hear that, and their biggest complaint is going to be that there's no human in the process. I think instead of thinking that way, you should consider controlling the robots. Just a thought.
Trying to stop robots from listening to robot music. There's one number Thibaut said that really stuck in my head. On Deezer overall, with all the non-music, fraud is about 9% of the total. On fully AI music, it's 70%.
So, let me get this right. Let me hear it one more time. I don't think I fully understood what he said.
Really stuck in my head. On Deezer overall, with all the non-music.
With all the non-music. Normal music. Fraud
is about 9% of the total.
Fraud is about 9% on the normal music.
On fully AI music, it's 70%.
On 70% for the fully AI music.
Right, then.
So that means most of your, if you got a friend who's uploading AI music, odds are he's part of the 70%. And it sucks because he could probably have a really cool career, cool name, studio, shit. We heard it happen with Timbaland. Timbaland was stealing from people. So this is not far-fetched from what we've been seeing so far from the past 2 weeks.
There isn't much of an appetite for AI music, but every time I go on YouTube, I get hordes of people telling me it's a goldmine. I feel like I want to speak to some real musicians here and see what they make of this.
Now, before we get into this too, I want you to pay attention to this. This is what I was talking about, I think, the other day, about how you have to really, really understand who you are in the music industry and make sense of what position you play.
An appetite for AI music, but every time I go on YouTube, I get...
Like, if you look at these pages, these thumbnails, do you think this is attractive to a musician or somebody who's trying to make money? Because look at the next one.
Hordes of people.
Do you think this is attractive to a musician or someone that's trying to make money?
Telling me it's a gold.
someone that's going to make money, or a musician? The AI music side hustle. Nobody's talking about. It's a side hustle. It's not even a career choice.
Mine. I feel like I want to speak to some real musicians here and see what they make of this, to help me understand it.
Eventually, I found someone who said he'd tell me the truth about making AI music. Aiden Grant, the founder of Different Source Production Company.
So I created music using AI music platforms. I then used that music to create AI artists, which would be the basis of my AI record label.
Wow. So he has a record label, which is essentially, in my opinion, it's not even a record label. You have a sound pack. Yeah, you essentially have a sound pack that can think a bit. But he has what he calls a record label, where he has, let's say, one sound pack for female singer, and then a selection of instruments, and then he uses that to build a catalog for that pillar. And then he has another one for male rapper guy, and then he uses the sound pack there to make songs. And then he keeps going and going and going. And then he builds and builds until he has pretty much a quote unquote record label of musicians, right? The problem with all of this is that you're not going to be able to know that he's using AI until he tells you. So you probably, if you like what he's doing, you'll probably enjoy something and think that you're listening to something real. So that there's a problem there, because then you will be putting your real money down to spend on something that's not real. If he does disclose it, then that means that he's found a way to make music without being the musician, right? And that's cool for him in particular, because we know and can kind of, I guess in a way, trust his skill set to be able to make music for music's sake. But what this shows you, especially as I was going through those thumbnails earlier, is that it now opens the doors and opportunities for people that are not musicians to then get in on an industry. To show you what I'm talking about, it'd be like the same shakeup in the industry that Uber did to taxi drivers. Whereas taxi drivers had to work for a company, understand the rules, play the game, get into the culture, drive a certain car, follow the licenses and stuff like that. Uber told people that you can use your own car on your phone and just find people on the street and pick them up, right? It changed the whole way people look at the entire industry. So now when you see a taxi, it's almost like an antique version of what's supposed to be going on. The new thing is a car that drives itself. So when a car that drives itself, who is responsible when something goes wrong? Who is responsible when something goes right? Okay. So now he's in a kind of a gray area of, well, you're making music, but you're not really making music. You're prompting a sound kit. You're prompting an engine. Okay. So now when we come to what is music, is it really just him sitting in a computer telling the music or the AI musician what to do based on his thoughts, or is it a musician writing and creating? And have we changed the definition of songwriting if you don't actually need to know or understand the song? So we are in a really weird gray area that honestly is only going to be dictated by what we enable. I can sit up here and act like everything's supposed to be all like perfect and copacetic, but in reality, if you guys accept this as consumers, if the consumers are okay with listening to AI artists and they're okay with spending money to their Apple Music company or Spotify company to then get fed music that's not real, to then pay a robot, then this is going to happen and continue. But if you guys seriously do have a problem with this, then you might want to consider whether or not you're actually supporting it directly. So what that could look like is, like, if you come across one of his artists and you go, oh, okay, that's AI, and you listen to it and you like it, that's one thing. If you listen to it and you like it and you realize it's AI and you don't want to support it, that's a whole nother conversation. But we got to make sure we understand what he's going to say. So let's continue.
Created music using AI music platforms. I then used that music to create AI artists, which would be the basis of my AI record label. The goal was that the AI record label would fund my real record label.
And he's doing, yeah, I kind of saw that coming too. He's doing kind of what I've seen in hip hop, where you'll see a rapper signed to a rapper in hopes to support their own career. And he's created basically a second, if not third job for himself. So not only does he want to have his own fleshed out career, right? He's going to do it on the backs of an AI artist that he also has to run and control with his own musical ideas. So on one hand, as an artist, I already can tell you're going to meet brain fatigue. You're not going to have as many ideas that you can come up with completely without the help of this AI just finishing off and polishing off most of this music for you to then have the rest of your brain fatigue pushed into your own work, unless your works aren't that intensive as far as effort to create it. Now, after you get to a point where your AI artists are doing well, what do you do with the catalogs when it's time to perform for yourself? When it's time to invest in your own catalog? Can you own and utilize this AI catalog to basically be the foundation for your own human career? And how much of your human effort is going to be based in your actual human effort versus the utilization of any AI in that process? That of which would just be an extension of what you're already doing. So are you really doing anything different, or are you doing the same job 3 different ways, 4 different ways, 5 different ways?
And did they?
No, they didn't. They are yet to turn a profit across the.
They have yet to turn a profit. So you're kind of banking on an idea, not a system.
For artists, I generated somewhere in the region of 100 to 150,000 streams. But yeah, it operated at a loss at this point.
So that's even crazier.
Generated somewhere in the region of 100 to 150,000.
So he got 100 to 150,000 streams, and at the pro rata that we have now, he probably made about $50, $80 out of all of that. So he got all of those streams, and again, we don't know if it's from bots or humans, but he got all of those streams from AI artists, and he was using that time, effort, and brain fatigue to basically fund the human career he had, that of which we don't know how many streams he's getting on the human side of his career. So you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of the effort that he's putting into something, but not as much understanding in the results, right? It would be a lot better for him to go through this approach using let's say, all right, I'll put myself in his position. I would use the AI artists to be bandmates. I wouldn't use them to be individual artists, because it doesn't make sense for me to create a whole artist that needs an identity, a fucking IP, representation for royalties and songs, and have an identity and branding, when I can just make in a bandmate, right? And that bandmate can then facilitate my idea as a tool versus standing alone independently, right? So now he's got to maintain the IP of whatever 1, 2, 3, 4 artists he has, get whatever 100,000, 150,000 streams, which means he has to work for those streams, only for it to be functioning in the red. So it's not a wise tactic. Whereas what I was saying earlier, it would be better to control the robots than to give the robots independence.
Streams.
He's essentially building his own competitor. Like, he built his own competitor, and then he's going to try to use his competitor's influence to function within his own career. That of which I haven't heard a funnel on how that's going to work. I don't know how you're going to lead the bot listeners to your real music and then get them to be convinced to spend money on you.
But yeah, it operated at a loss at this point.
You see, with AI, Aiden could make 10 tracks an hour, but without concerts, merch, social media, all the other stuff that goes alongside music. You know, the human connection. His tracks didn't register. To conclude my investigation, I wanted to meet Aiden in person. We're in the cool part of London, cycling along.
See, and I get what the host is trying to do. He's trying to just give like a real experience. But this is kind of what I was meaning, I think, a long time ago when I was starting this channel, is that like there's a lot of musicians who don't really understand the game, but they are really, really immersed. Like, I don't know how he believed. It's not that he did good by like trying it, but I don't know where he believed that removing the human aspect was going to garner him success. Like, if he did both, like I was saying, making them bandmates, you could control it and then find a way to implement the human aspect. But he basically tried to make a product that sold itself based on nothing. Like, drugs sell themselves. Sex sells itself. Violence, sex, it sells itself. Your music in the house you made from a prompt on a robot, you got to figure out how to get people to like that shit. And I don't know what made him think that wouldn't work.
He's got some friends who are musicians, so going to show him what we found and, yeah, see what they think of it. Right, so I'm here with Aiden, Lila and Ben.
Aiden and I are ready. Lala and Ben are musicians, and we're going to show them what we found out in Paris. So here we go. Yeah. So most listens to AI music is actually fraud.
Yes, we're detecting right now that more than 70% of the streams done on this content is detected by our algorithm as fraudulent.
Wow.
How do you detect it?
Oh my god.
Yeah. I knew about bots. I didn't know it was that high of a number.
Yeah. Because they actually put a number on how much would come out of the revenue pool if 10% was taken, and it was 3 billion.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you imagine if
Why don't they know that these numbers exist? Why are you shocked? I don't know why they're so shocked. I don't know where the shock comes from. But this is kind of what I mean. Like, a lot of artists, they're just in here. They're just working. Like, when I talk to tech people, like really, really smart tech people, they know a lot about a lot of different things. And it's because technology is useful everywhere, right? When it comes to music, we get this thing where, like, we create our own little world. Like, you're the toughest rapper, so you're from your hood and nobody's gonna deal with you. But you got to make ringtones and CDs and MP3s just like everybody else does. But the numbers y'all are playing with, why don't we know these numbers?
Fraudulent.
Wow.
How do you detect it?
Oh my god.
Yeah. I knew about bots. I didn't know it was that high of a number.
Yeah. Because they actually put a number on how much would come out of the revenue pool if 10% was taken, and it was 3 billion.
Just 10.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you imagine if 70% got taken.
This is boiling my blood. Like, you know, as artists, we get such a small fraction of really the money that we actually deserve to get because of the streaming system.
And it's a streaming system we helped develop. When you look at people who vote for these things, when you look at people who advocate for these things, they are themselves musicians most times. They are writers and things like that. But the issue is we can't negotiate. We don't have the leverage to tell Spotify, pay us $1 a stream. We don't have the leverage, especially when you have like the last artist who's willing to put up robots and I call it fake music. You know, there's no real leverage you can argue to a business that's going to say, pay me this amount of money because I think I'm cool. I don't know why artists haven't figured that part out. It's been a thing since like the 70s where like you'll be really popular, you'll play really good instrument, you'll know really cool people, you know how to talk on camera. But then when it comes to leverage, that's like non-existent. It's like you don't own your masters. You don't control your studio. Like the studio is rented out and they got to get royalties as well. You don't create the entire track from top to bottom. So now you're basically exploiting out all your creativity and licenses. And I don't understand. I don't know where artists are missing this gap, because I figured this out when you listen to A Tribe Called Quest and they complain about the Grammys. That's a real easy way to observe it, because once they started complaining about the Grammys and you figure out why, it's like, oh, okay, it has really nothing to do with their rapping skill, because they're literally A Tribe Called Quest. They're one of the best rap groups, but they don't get rewards, right? So you got to play the game, or at least understand the game, to know why you mad. But she's saying artists don't get paid what they deserve, and I'm saying they don't because they don't have leverage, and they haven't had leverage.
And for that to just be getting cut shorter and shorter and shorter through robots.
Those numbers make this feel industrial. Like there's a big chunk of the market that is being eaten by this essentially now, and it baffles me how quickly that's happened.
I think that like artists can't compete with that on a sheer output level. I had no idea that it was numbers to that extreme.
He had no idea, and that's kind of my point. Is most people don't know. Like they don't know. Like he's probably working on an album right now. I promise you, he's got music in his hard drive waiting to be dropped on Spotify, and he had no clue. So now this is the point of this channel, and this is why I'm glad this video ended the way it did, or that last clip. We have a lot of musicians, and he looks like mid-30s maybe. Probably got kids, fucking car. He's like a lot of us, right? He had no clue. So now, how do we get everybody up to speed? Just on the music side, like the tech people they're They're smart, man. They got us. But how do we get musicians on the same page on this issue? How do we get them to realize that you're up against some of the craziest tech and opportunities that are basically either going to hinder your creativity or excel it? So in one way, you could just jump in like the last guy and just start creating AI music, but it hindered him because he wasted his time, wasn't making money. And now he's got basically 3 artists on a record label to manage, and that of which he has to figure out what to do with. On the other hand, you can figure out how you can make, I guess you can say, AI supplements to what you're doing. Like if you go to the Vegas Sphere, most of that up on the screen is AI generated. I've seen churches use AI B-roll during services and stuff like that. Like if you figure out how to enhance your performance with AI, you won't have to rely on it, which then you won't have to compete with the AI itself. You can compete with the artists who know how to be artists, right? But I think now that we're starting to see how little we really understand about everything, we really got to start getting people educated. Like we got to start pulling back, put the horn down, put the guitar back in the case, get the systems open, start actually reading the manuals, opening the back of the CD and start understanding what is actually happening to our products and things like that. But let's take a quick break, and I want to check the chat because I didn't have the chat up. And when I open the chat, I see you guys are in here chatting. So let's review the chat and see what you guys are talking about. I love this, but let me know what you guys think of this topic so far. We have more reaction videos. I actually wanted to check out, this just popped in my head, an artist I thought of during all of this. I want to see how he's managing all this. So let's see who's in the chat. Tech Coach Ralph, Shay Craig, Tech Coach is a really cool channel. Tech Coach Ralph, he has a channel that goes into all of this from way more in-depth ways. I watch this dude build like apps. I watch him like critique AI like to its face. Like it's pretty cool. But yeah, check out Tech Coach Ralph. We got Shay Craig in here. What you guys talking about? You saying why is AI music considered fake? I'd rather listen to the AI generated music I create than to what they are forcing us to listen to. That is actually my point from I think like 2 streams ago. I was saying that I was like, people are like there were actually interviews from like, I don't remember what generation, there's so many people, but these artists were being asked, it was a hip-hop artist, I wish I could remember, but they were like, what are you working on? What's the new thing that we can expect from you? And he said, nothing. My big thing now is listening to Tupac and Biggie AI. So they just sit in the studio with all that equipment and just make top of the line, state of the art AI music with what they think Tupac would sound like today with like the Migos or, you know, whatever. And it was like, they do that all day long and it's just fun for them. So I don't see no problem with that. And I think the reason I think it's considered fake is usually because of the actual musicality needed from the human, right? So like, let's say grandma gets Suno and grandma is like, oh, thank you, baby. You got me Suno Pro. And then you go, hey, grandma, what you want to listen to? And she goes, oh, no, baby. Let's see. I want to listen to the bebop version of Halo from Beyonce. And she hits enter. She's done. She's created it. She's good. It's going to get the job done. Enter. That's all she needed to do, right? She didn't need to understand chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, outro. She didn't need to understand emotional expression. She didn't need to understand tonality to make sure the prompt gets the key right. She didn't need to know all that shit. The technology has made it so easy for people to just get what they want now. So that's not actually a bad point, but it just makes a thing where how do you compete with grandma's taste versus what grandma is going to be experiencing in reality, right? And the sugar-free version of creating AI music was when you started to hear commercials on radio stations make emulations of hip-hop songs, or at least for me, right? So you would hear like, who let the dogs out, right? Like, who let the dog, right? You would hear that, but then when a commercial for like selling dog food would come on, you'd hear like this weird little like watered-down version of it, right? That is what grandma's okay with. Grandma is cool with the watered-down version. She don't really need nothing else, right? Well, who gets paid for what grandma likes? And this is where we as musicians have a problem. Tech people don't have this problem. Tech people created the system and grandma gets what she wants. And she's paying the tech company the subscription to get that music, right? But when it comes to the bebop version of Beyonce's song, well, who gets paid? The tech company, Beyonce? Does grandma get paid? She technically made it, you know, so that's where it gets really confusing. And then you'll have situations where, I don't know if this could possibly be a thing, but they're saying that when you create something with AI, if it's not entirely or mostly human input, you can't copyright it. Like, it's not protected, right? But then you're going to get a situation where you're noticing a lot of people are developing, like that last AI artist record label dude. They're going to start creating catalogs and products, whether it's books on Amazon, pictures on Instagram of models, or videos on TikTok that are just AI generated. And they're going to do this for months, weeks, years, and they're going to develop time and effort. And then in our human brain, we're going to develop some kind of value to this. Who gets paid? You know, who gets paid for grandma's 4th smash hit album of Beyonce, the bebop version? And so unless Beyonce's getting paid for each time her likeness is used to create a new product for her fans to enjoy, I don't see how we can ever really control this. So your real best bet is to either not use AI as a standalone independent thing to avoid this trap, or to use it as a supplement and then just be honest with your fans. Like, look, this is an AI drummer and everything else is pretty much human, but it is what it is. So that's actually a great point. You're going to find a lot of people, artists or not, that's just going to do it. It's fun. It's really just fun. No, it's not really anything of a bad thing. Shake Ray says, I think the music is considered fake because of what I just said, and it's not actual person singing. That's pretty much it. A lot of people are going to consider things fake based on super simple surface level things, but the companies don't. No one cares that Bruno Mars is singing the same songs from 40 years ago. Companies don't care. The best way I see it, Shake Ray says, is see this working as actual musicians making AI music. If everybody starts doing it, we're going to just get more shitty music. And that's kind of my point, is that you're just going to get inundated with just slop. You can see it a lot with when we started, actually, there was like a wave on YouTube, I think for like a year, of people just making AI music. Just, they'll take like Lil Boosie and then make it a jazz song. 50 Cent, make him speak Spanish. I always use that one. But for a while there, people kind of were like, okay, this is cool. But then you started to kind of feel that plateau of creativity. You can kind of tell like the creators weren't musicians of the channels and the music. You can tell that it's like, you guys aren't really like creating and innovating. You're just working. You're just putting a prompt in every week, making sure you got an upload ready. And once people realize that, they kind of just phased out of the algorithm, alongside with the Supreme Court and every other platform demonetizing AI content. So there's really no point of doing it other than to have fun, which is why I don't really have a problem with people that want to just do it for fun. But yeah, he said grandma must be from Louisiana. Yeah, grandma, she bout it. She bout it. I will say though, Tech Coach Ralph says, from my first AI song to my latest, I got much better at understanding the music industry. Yes, and see, that's honestly the best part of making the AI music. We saw this with digital audio workstations. When I was coming into the music industry, that was our uphill battle. It was like, oh, you use digital workstations, you're not a real musician. Why'd you in the studio? You using a little home laptop to make beats? And like, yeah, that it is weird. It is kind of like clunky. You do get a lot of bad habits when it comes to like being in the professional setting, but you get access. You get access to everything you need to see as far as like what the pros are looking at. Now, whether you understand it, as Tech Coach Ralph said here, it's going to take a little bit of effort, you to sit down. Maybe you got to, like, honestly, for me to learn the stuff I learned, I went to the library. Like, I wasn't going to play no games with people. I picked up Music Theory for Dummies. I had people give me music business books. When I would go into the studios with other engineers, I would have them walk me through what they're doing. Like, I wouldn't just say, hey, put a reverb on. I'd be like, what reverb are you using? What knob does that do? Like, what does that knob do? Like, I would figure all that out. And so now that I got all that information, if you sit me in front of an AI engine, the learning curve will be learning the engine. I can make music. It's easy. So now once I learn the engine, my ideas will just flow right out of that thing. And that's kind of the cooler part about everybody getting access to this, is that now you can get kids making full on orchestral pieces from their brain a lot easier. They won't have to do all the effort of learning all the stuff. It just makes it kind of negative when you want people to capitalize on it unmitigated. Like, you got to have a reason to capitalize on it for it to be of benefit to everybody. Otherwise, you're going to have situations like, bro, where you're just making music for no reason. So yeah, every new innovation, the prior people say it's not real. Bro, that's facts. I saw this story. I'm gonna try to find it and react to it. What was it? The analog synthesizer. That of which, when we hear it today, it's almost like nothing, right? We just meow, meow, you just hear the weird, wacky sounds, right? When the analog synthesizer came into the public realm, like they had it in, I think, the military and stuff like that. They were using it for like sonars and understanding frequencies and radars and shit like that. But when they started using it in the public for musical instruments, people literally thought it was the devil. They thought it was Satan coming through their speakers. They couldn't understand what it was because humanity had not been exposed, at least on a mass scale, to just pure sound, just straight up, just a perfect frequency delivered right to your ears, right? And so you would get situations of, because back then there was really no, like, being weird in the 50s and 60s, that's high quality, grade A weirdness. Okay. Those people were complete, like the word strange comes from the 50s and back, 60s and back, right? Today's weird, you kind of like got it from your parents. Like you read a book somewhere and you're like, oh, I think I'm like Harry Potter, or I'm gothic, you know, shit like that. But when back then, when you were in the 50s and 60s and you were considered weird, like if people were calling you weird, it was like you should go to jail. That's how they treated you. So now when you have musicians on stage and you're introducing, like in the 50s and 60s, rock and roll, you start getting into the 80s, metal and stuff like that. Yeah, he's right. People will look at this stuff and be like, no, this is wrong. This is not correct. They thought that they were hearing the sounds of hell opening up. And it really was just a computer. But yeah, that's the coolest part of all this, is like you get to learn all this stuff, you get exposed to it, and you really get to understand what's truly going on in the professional sense, and not really just looking at it like people did back then. It was like, oh, this is scary, avoid it. You see a lot of that conversations today where people are like, I don't like AI. I feel like we're losing our thought processes. I feel like we're getting dumber. Well, you either are going to be dumber because you're dumb, or you're going to get smarter because you're dumb and you're willing to learn. So that's how I look at it. But let's continue with the program. Thank you guys for joining. That was awesome, actually, because a lot of conversations I have with people that aren't musicians, once I start talking this music stuff, they tune out because, again, what's the point? You know, they really don't care. They want to listen to 50 Cent speak Spanish. So it is what it is. But let's get into the next clip here.
With a need to be a social media influencer for the sake of getting more listeners, which, if you're an artist listening to this, which I hope you are, I don't know what else you'd be doing if you were watching this, I would be relieved. I'd be over the moon, because like this not meaning this, absolute win. So
basically what she's explaining is that you no longer need to be, or have to be, or should only be a social media influencer to make it in the music industry. I've said this a million times. Shit, I'm not just a musician. I'm into so much different shit that it doesn't really make sense for me to be considered one thing, right? One day I'll go through, I'm gonna try to figure out, I gotta ask Tech Coach Ralph, you probably know how to do this. I gotta go through Gemini, and I gotta have Gemini put in like a nutshell all the shit I've learned in the past, I'll say like 4 months about AI. There's so many systems that are being run in the background right now, as far as like planning and strategies and things like that, that I've developed with AI, that of which aren't really going to be felt because I understood how to do this on a supplemental level with AI, right? So something like when I'm working with my fitness clients, I use some of the data points that I use with my fitness clients to help understand how to communicate with them, right? I don't have AI run my fitness program, right? And then on the other hand, when I'm creating music, I do what I was saying earlier. I use AI as a bandmate, or as a engineer that's going to analyze my music, so that way I can go in and make the changes that are necessary. All of that shit that I learned didn't have anything to do with music theory, hitting the notes right, singing, rapping, or anything, right? So I've spent a good chunk of change in terms of my time just learning about technology and AI. And it's helped me so much more in the music world, because now I'm looking at other musicians, like she's about to explain, who are trying to become a 1-note or 2-note musician, meaning like they're a musician who is into fitness, hard stop. They're a musician that is into acting, hard stop. They're a musician that's into cooking, hard stop. And what it's going to do is it's going to create, similar to the guy with the AI record label, it's just going to create a second job. It's not really going to be who you are, because you're trying to navigate the kind of career that needs you to be all in, right? This isn't like HVAC, where you can do HVAC for 40 hours, 60 hours a week, and then work on your side hustle. This isn't like a retail job as a manager, where you can do your 40 hours of work and then come back and then work on your little side business as a licensed real estate investor. Like, you can't do that here. When it comes to the music industry, if you're not teaching, if you're not learning, if you're not performing, you basically are dead. There's really nothing to it. Now, the only reason I say that is because you think of your favorite artist today, put them in your head, put their song, and pick why you love their song, right? Would you get up today? It's 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Would you get up today at 4 p.m. and go to their concert, regardless of the cost? Right? And if your answer is a hesitant yes or a no, then that means the artist has some work to do. Okay. Versus if it's 10 a.m. on the East Coast today and your toilet shattered, would you call a plumber by 4 p.m. today? Right? The plumber is just sitting there. He ain't got to do shit, but your toilet broke and you need him. You need him within hours. Okay. So this is not the industry to be sitting there chilling. This is not the industry to be thinking, oh yeah, I played at my cousin's wedding, I could just do weddings. No. You need to be better than everybody else, and you need to be getting everybody better. That's why I do this here, is because I've talked to musicians similar in that last clip, and they're shocked. They don't know this information. They're like, wow, I didn't know this exists. And I realized the reason they don't know it exists is not because it's not available, not because it's hard to get to, but it's just because we're not prioritizing it. Our priorities are usually the next gig. It's usually, damn, I gotta get my instrument repaired, or family, life shit, adulting shit, right? And so when it comes to actually setting up the long-term bow and arrow shot for what your career is supposed to be, we don't think about what it's going to be like when we're 70 years old trying to get a gig. Like, we don't think about that part. We don't think about being 54, 2 kids in, your kids are almost going into college, and you're trying to figure out how to, I don't know, get a gig. Like, things like that, we don't consider that, because we just assume music, like every other industry, is just going to be of value to everybody. Like, everybody needs a trumpet player, everybody needs a guitar player. No, they don't. The weddings today, I bet you 10 years from now, probably sooner, a wedding is going to be DJ'd by a robot. Like, I'm sure people do like little auto playlists and things like that, but I mean like a literal, like, it's going to be an event. Like, they're not going to be playing with you type shit. Like, you're going to go to the wedding, you'll be like, yo, who's doing the music? And it's going to be like DJ Clicky Clank, and he's going to be killing it. And you're going to think, well, why didn't they get a real DJ? And that's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at all. So she's hopefully going to break down why you need to be highly multi-hyphenated musicians today.
Which I hope you are. I don't know what else you'd be doing if you were watching this. I would be relieved. I'd be over the moon, because like, this not meaning this, absolute win. So yeah, we're seeing artists that are potentially influencers first, trying to release, struggling, or thinking that being an influencer will sell their music, also struggling. The route that we're finding artists are absolutely smashing it on social and then pushing to the next level is having a unique content strategy. So having that USP. This is not something that needs to be crazy. Like, the USP can be the music. The USP can be the narrative of the track. But you need to have a USP. And I've said USP so many times. It means unique selling point, if you don't know what that is. But as an artist, you should already know this, because your USP should be your music. It should be your brand. It should be your style. Like, you should already know what makes you different as
Facts. And what she's doing right now is something that actually isn't done for a lot of musicians. even like I've been to school focusing on music, I would say from 5th or 6th grade, right? And that means like, oh, I'm in music class, I'm learning music or whatever, right? And out of all the teachers and all the seminars and performances and orchestra pieces I've read and stuff like that, not one person has sat down and said, you need a brand. Not one person. And it wasn't until I'll tell you a quick story. I got to Berkeley College of Music in Boston. I had to audition, and this was for getting into college as a freshman, right? So from high school in Maryland, we flew to Boston for the audition. I had to basically audition, like send in a video to get that opportunity to go there. So I auditioned here, then flew to Boston for the full in-person audition, right? And then when I got there, this was the reality check. So I got there, knew I was good on the music, knew I read all my stuff, right? But when I started to perform, or like basically they will pull you into a room for individual auditions. And for those of you who don't know and have never been in an audition is exactly what you would think it is for an artist as it is for a musician. They basically go through all the skills they would probably expect a general person to have, and then have you read something of theirs just out of the blue to see how well you can use the skills you have on the fly, right? And so what that shows you is that, okay, we can work with you as a tool or an add-on asset to the greater thing we're doing here in the Berkeley College, right? I'm saying this now. When I was doing the audition, I thought going into it, I finished what I knew, show them what I knew, and then ask them what they can give me. And that's not how it works, right? And so typically, or not typically, I'll rewind. What I actually started to notice was that the other musicians there, they were doing the same thing, but they had the understanding that there was something more needed, right? So like I had the musical skill to get through. I think I got through the first part. The next part was where it kind of all combined, because they knew for a fact the people coming here could play. They knew for a fact the people here were, taught by good teachers or could get, you had to submit in order to get here, right? The next part was when you did the in-person interview. And for me, it was just before that interview where I got to meet all the other musicians. I met a girl who was playing, I think, the violin at the time. And she was probably like younger than me. So I was in high school. She probably was in maybe like a year younger or something like that. She was playing, I think, for her church and orchestra and stuff like that. But she was super shy. She looked nice. She was, she looked like a real professional musician, but she was super shy. Next to her, or in the room as well, was a drummer. And I could tell he's a drummer because he had the sticks in his hand, right? Dressed like a drummer, and all that stuff. But he barely spoke English and came from, I think he said, Columbia to audition at Berkeley in Boston. Okay. So I'm hearing this and I'm like, okay, I came from like 5 hours south on a flight. Okay. So I'm not really understanding why you came so far to this school. So then we get into the actual interview, and the questions are just along the lines of like, what do you do for music? Are you gigging? Basically what she's presenting here, what is your brand, right? And at the time, I actually had a brand in high school. I had the DameSmiff brand. I think at the time I had all my EIN and all that stuff too. So I felt like a little legit. But what I started to realize was, as I was explaining it to him, that the brand looked amateurish, right? Not because of the circumstance. Clearly I'm a freshman. Clearly I just started this brand, and clearly I'm not like a savant on the instrument, right? But I started to, as I'm explaining myself, my brain is going, oh, this is the important part. This gets you the gig. This gets you in right here. It wasn't the other shit, like the playing the instrument and all that. It wasn't that, because the playing the instrument part, they knew from the video. I got there. It was the part where, now that we know you're a good musician, what's the value add, right? So then I'm sure people who got into because I didn't get in, but I'm sure the people who did get in had a kind of resume of consistency in terms of if they were a performing artist and things like that. Like maybe they had just a long line of gigs and things like that. If they were an engineer, maybe they worked on different projects and stuff like that. But again, I'm saying this in hindsight. So my point is that from 6th grade when I started, all the way up until that point, it was up to me to make the brand, and that of which the brand looked like, it was up to me to make the brand. It didn't look like somebody sat me down and said, hey, this is what's going to help you be successful. This is how you make a brand and stuff like that. So when I got back home, that's all I worked on. the DameSmiff brand. I was working on logos. I made the little drop. I made all the little beats and stuff like that. And I basically built a big ass hard drive full of just content and shit that I've just been slowly trickling out because I'm learning more and more and more about how to control your assets and things like that, right? But through all of that, when I got back from Boston, it took me probably about 5 years to kind of like get to a point where I felt like I was officially an independent musician personally. Like I've been doing it, but it was like when I felt like I could compete. By the time I got to those 5 years after college, so got from Boston, moved back home, and then attended college back home. For 4 to 5 years of that point, I'm studying how to build a brand. I'm studying how to build and develop the systems to be, you know, a musician and stuff. Many of that, again, I still learned without the help of somebody just sitting me down and saying, this is what you do. So I would have to pay attention to other students who were trying to learn how to engineer. And I learned how to engineer on my own. So I didn't need that step. I needed to learn how to network to get other artists into the studio. You see the difference now? So instead of me having to learn how to make music, I need to learn how to build and collaborate. So then when I started collaborating with people, this is where the conversations like this channel started to arise. When I started to talk to musicians about brand building, their idea of brand building came off of the, I guess, 1990s rap group type of business model where there's like one superstar artist or singer and then like the band behind them, right? Most musicians weren't trying and striving to be the front man in terms of their own, literally their own careers, right? So then when you have a situation of, let's say, a drummer or a trumpet player that's in a large band like an orchestra, it's really, really hard to convince them to step out of that and then stand on their own and compete with that same orchestra. Because then what it's going to look like is now all of the cool benefits you had of being a part of a group, all the benefits you had of being a signed artist and all that stuff, they get swept right from under you. Now, suddenly, you have to be the one to find musicians that are disciplined and skillful and then have a network and have a brand. You become the Berkeley College that is sending out the auditions and stuff like that, which then means you have less time to focus on your musical talents, which means when you do focus on your musical talents, they have to be that much more strategic, that much more valuable, and that much more precise. So, saying all that to say, I know that now. When I was coming up, nobody was teaching this. So what she's about to expose is pretty much a lot of your favorite musicians' insecurities and weaknesses. And I see this when I look at y'all music videos. I see this when I look at y'all y'all new drops and y'all channels and y'all social media platforms. People send me stuff all the time. They'll be like, oh, look at this artist. Don't he look dope? And I'll be like, yeah, he looks dope. But let's look under the hood and see what's going on. And if I see in your music video there's 19 friends and only one rapper, that's a signal for a red flag for me. If you're a singer and I notice you're singing, but then when I watch your shows, you're not singing, that's a red flag. If you're a gigging artist and you're complaining about ticket sales and making money, these are red flags. And it makes me think you're participating in something you don't understand. So just keep that in mind when we listen to her talk, that even I didn't understand a lot of the shit she's about to say.
Be your brand. It should be your style. Like, you should already know what makes you different as an artist. And if you don't, go back to the drawing board. Like, start everything from scratch all over again. Because if you don't know that, like even an agency like ours, we work with artists on their brand development as well. So we'll take them from those early stages and help them find who they are as a person and their artistry and how we can bring that to life visually. But they kind of have to know too.
Yeah, and they have to be the one to be like, help me at the same time too. Like, you can't be an artist and be like, man, shit's not working, and then don't ask for help. But she makes a great point. She actually runs an agency, which makes this really cool. I'm gonna have to look into that. But basically, she runs an agency that helps artists understand that stuff. And part of understanding being dope is understanding what dope is. And if you don't know what that is, then how can I teach you, right? I talked about it before, but I got to make another video about this, of how to be a good student. This is something I had to learn too, but I learned this luckily without the hard lessons. Basically, the type of student that's going to be attractive to somebody in a situation like her agency is going to be somebody who's willing to learn, right? I've been in classrooms and mentor Zoom calls with a large group of people. They be 50-year-old business people who know what they're talking about or has a lot of experience, and they will not know how to learn. And so the issue that they'll have is they'll have a problem and all they can see is the problem. So now when you give them a solution, it reverts back to how the problem is going to stop the solution, right? And I'll give you an example for musicians here. Female singers and artists and rappers and whatever you want to be, they have the hurdle of overcoming societal sexuality stigmas, right? So if you're a girl who likes to have a lot of promiscuous sex, odds are you're going to attract a certain audience, right? If you're a girl who's very, very modest and very wholesome, you're going to attract a certain audience, right? The issue you're going to come into is, well, what value does that bring your career? If you're a girl who sings and you want to be modest, then you have to kind of understand what comes with that. But if you're that girl and you realize you're not getting, let's say, the spicy takes on blogs, or you're not always in the names of all the cool guys and nobody really says your name in rap songs for how pretty you are, then you have to kind of accept that for what it is. But here's the issue. If you look at that as a problem, are you willing to learn how to solve it, right? So if you look at being modest as a problem for getting, I guess, notoriety in the music industry, a lot of girls say that, like, oh, the modest girls get left behind, right? Here's a solution. Change what it is you want to sell. But when you hear that as an artist, it sounds like change who you are, change who I am, you don't love me for who I am. And honestly, the truth is, yes, the audience does not love this as much as that. And if you're going to play the game of giving people what they want for their money, that is going to play a huge role, which is this lady's agency's job to help you understand as an artist, because you can be in your room, in your living room, making videos all day long on TikTok. But if you want to compete with Drake, then you have to, just like the AI record label guy, you have to figure out that human component. What is it that connects people to you, right? And so whenever I talk about people who get on streaming sites and stuff like that, one of the things I point out to them is that you probably don't know why you like the artist you like. There's some person who designed a code in the Apple Music system that recommended you Drake. And then when you saw the name Drake, you tapped it for a number of reasons, whether it's you love a Drake song, you love the Drake look and aesthetic, the Drake experience, meaning like you've been to the shows or watched the videos and stuff like that. But you're not really understanding why. And if you don't understand why, you don't really have to. But if you don't understand why, you can't really manage it. And Drake has actually been employed to understand that. He probably has an agency like hers that understands that. And so they can manage it. So as an artist, super important you get what she's saying right now.
You can't just pull it out of thin air. So that USP has to be brought to life through social media, because that is what gets those viral moments. And what's funny is I've done videos before on how to go viral on TikTok and how to get these viral videos. And yes, that's important, but it's actually how you follow up from that viral moment. So yes, you want to go viral, but it's actually the viral follow-up.
Yep. And I think we said this a couple streams ago as well. If you go viral and you do nothing with it, you didn't really go viral. Basically what hopefully she breaks down, and I'm gonna try to give my little non-agency armchair enthusiast perspective here. What I think she's gonna show you is that if you do go viral, let's say you make a little TikTok dance and it goes viral, how do you monetize it? Well, if you didn't have a copyright, some kind of original IP, a YouTube channel, some kind of blog or a subscription model or some kind of service that you're providing that's actually linked to the metadata of whatever went viral, you don't monetize it, because 9 times out of 10, if it's been viral, it's already been bootlegged and copied by somebody else who's already ready to monetize on the shit that they bootleg. So hopefully she explains the preparation needed to go viral.
It's most important there. So really great example of that is our artist Altego. If you check them out on socials, they're consistently getting viral moments. However, the way that they followed up from that is being consistent with that content strategy, which is then converting into streams. Another example is an artist we work with. I've spoken about him on the channel before, called Butler. We had a crazy viral video for him. It was his dad reacting to him performing his track live. And instead of us just being like, cool, viral moment, let's tell everyone we got a viral video, we were like, how can we capitalize on that? That piece of content and the ads and pushing to DSPs led to huge momentum for him. He's signed to a management company now. He's got a booking agent. He's being offered loads of distro and label deals. And that was one of his breakthrough moments.
Okay, that is pretty cool. But I also want to show you something else. Notice how all of the opportunities that came to him weren't based around his musical talent. Okay? There's something here that is it's woven in between all of the shit we're talking about. He went viral on a social media platform, that of which was him. She said the video was of his father reacting to him performing live. So his musical talent got him onto a stage and then had people recording him. Stop. After that, this was all technology posted onto a social media platform. That's the start. It goes viral based on the algorithm and your reaction to the content, and that of which brought him the notoriety for companies that are, again, not musicians, but just taking opportunity within the music industry because it's there to exploit, to help him facilitate his career. Management companies, publishing, distribution, all this cool stuff. And these companies have nothing to do with your musical talent. They help you sell records. They help you facilitate managing your business and things like that. So I just want you to just understand that that's all woven into everything she just said. He didn't play better notes. He didn't hit a long note and then suddenly somebody was like, yo, I need to sign him. Like, no. He set everything up before.
But he followed up on it. It's not just viral moment after viral moment after viral moment. The final thing I want to talk about is community building. So, community building is kind of not looked at enough. I can't multitask, so let me finish writing that. Community building. So, community building, obviously that's what social media is for. Social media is for connecting with your fans, with the potential fans, but most people use it for those viral moments. Yes, those viral moments are important, but the follow-up is also this community building. Because if you can't build that community, you do not have fans. You have likes. You have views. They're pointless. Because community is how you get a platinum record. It's how you sell out arenas. It's how you actually make an income from this, because the community are the ones that invest in you. So if you have likes and views, they're not going to invest in you. So
how do you think, and let me know in the comments, how do you think what she's saying contrasts to the people that are looking at using bots for streams? Like, that was my point about the guy using the AI record label. How does it in his brain, this is going to garner him a human fan base that's going to love his music, let alone him, to then spend their hard-earned money from their lives to watch him perform? So based on everything she just said, what makes artists believe the contrast of what she's saying?
It's how you sell out arenas. It's how you actually make an income from this, because the community are the ones that invest in you. So if you have likes and views, they're not going to invest in you. So community building. The best way to community build isn't with these big videos, so the reels and the feed posts and all this. It's with DMs, replying to comments, stories, talking to them as if they are human beings and not numbers. It's the way that you are going to be able to use social media to make this a career and to sustain it. All in all, social media still is one of the key ways that artists are getting discovered, and it's going to continue to be the case in 2026, 2027, 2028. Social media is not going anywhere. Yes, new things are going to come in, new platforms, but those new platforms are going to be different ways to communicate with fans, different ways to engage a new audience. Next one. This one is like the polar opposite and is something that it sounds like it's the end goal, but actually for a lot of artists, it's how we're seeing them go from nothing to very known. And it's live. I think a lot of you watching this are going to be like, well, how the hell am I meant to get live if I haven't got any audience yet? I've got a few examples of artists we've worked with where live has been the thing that has broken them. So when I'm talking about live, I'm obviously not talking about arena tours, because if you're not that known yet, you're not going to break through by doing an arena tour. You're going to be playing to like your mum and your nan. What we're seeing is artists getting support slots, artists doing local small school tours or pub tours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But building an audience live is mental for how.
It's funny how she's explaining this because I knew what she meant. I just wanted her to explain it in her own words. But what she's essentially explaining is what is commonly known as the Chitlin circuit. She calls it live to make it seem a little more sophisticated, but essentially what you're doing is the Chitlin circuit. You're using your presence and your real estate of your presence to garner influence. That's what you're doing. So when people talk about like getting paid and exposure and stuff like that, that's one way you can definitely garner notoriety. But she's not saying it in the sense of just doing that alone. She's saying it in combination of all these things, right? So there could be, she probably has a way more in-depth way of looking at it, but there's ways to collaborate with artists and venues and situations. Sometimes it can be like a national holiday sometimes that can make things very, very easy for you to get a gig or, circumstances in world events. But her point about community building was actually the big point of everything here, because a lot of the communities that people build are just likes. They're just views. So like, I point this out all the time on Instagram. The girls on Instagram that post like Instagram model photos or like scantily clad photos and they want to be sexy and cute. If you're not posting probably like all the other exclusive whatever you want to do behind a paywall or sending it to like a publisher to get on a magazine or something like that, you're essentially just softcore porn for like everybody for free. And if they don't understand that, they're going to think that they're doing something valuable because of the likes going up, the followers going up, right? So what she means by community building is understanding that like there's people who really, really want to see your product or see you and spend their money on it or spend their time on it, really, because time is valuable as well. But I think now when we're talking about today's artists, they struggle with this because most of the things they want aren't valuable things that they can leverage. They're what do they call them? Vanity metrics, followers, subscriber counts, view time and all this stuff. But you really aren't looking at those metrics in terms of being able to use that as leverage. Okay. Watch time only works for ads, right? If you're trying to get people to give you ad placements, that's one way. The other one, followers and subscribers, that only shows you that you have garnered followers and subscribers, but unless your subscribers do something, they don't really matter. So it's a weird thing. But apart from all of that, you got to really make sure your community is actually valuing you as an artist. If you remember in I want to say it was like 2011, 12, I think the group Travis Porter, they was making all the twerk music for the college girls and stuff, running to the pussy like a crash dummy, all that shit. When they were doing that, they were basically creating music that sold itself, right? It didn't necessarily need much effort outside of them. They had to be cool and write really cool, funky lyrics and make good beats. But again, that's the music side of things. Now, outside of that, we don't know where they are today in terms of that same notoriety. Their names don't ring bells, like if we're going to be honest, as much as it used to back then. And part of that is because of what she was saying about being prepared for the viral moment. Their viral moment for them lasted years, but the follow-up was non-existent, right? The follow-up probably lasted, I don't know, probably a year after, but the follow-up as far as an actual career was non-existent because most of the things that they could have done to make this a long-term household name of, let's say, generations to come, like let's say a Tupac, a Prince, a Beyonce, these are names that I'm saying that you would just be like, oh yeah, well, those are big artists. But no, these are artists that started off small as well, and they worked their way up, just like a Pepsi, just like a Coca-Cola, all these places and all these companies and things like that. This is America. This can happen, right? But again, if you're of the ilk that, I don't think it can work for me, I'm not going to take the initiative to learn about AI. I'm not going to take the initiative to challenge AI and actually like be of an adversary to what I call an industry, then yeah, you will just get eaten alive. And it looks different for so many different artists, right? I've seen artists we don't like come and go because they didn't take advantage of, let's say, the notoriety they had, and we didn't care at all. And then I've seen other artists where they tried to the fan base tried to throw a temper tantrum because we don't listen to their music anymore. They'll be all on Twitter like, you guys don't like my new favorite song. And so it proves to me that they don't understand the very things that this girl was saying with her agency, or if they do understand it, they're just rejecting it, and it's hitting them hard in the face, in the music career face. So we have one more clip here, and then we'll wrap it up very, very soon. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this. This is going to be a really good breakdown for a lot of musicians that need to understand the positions that they're in, especially when they want to make income as musicians going into this new thing. But yeah, we got one more clip, and then we'll get on out of here for you guys.
Are now uploaded per day, equal to roughly 39% of daily intake. That's crazy. And so for us, it's like, yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, it's maybe a little bit disheartening, but at the same time, it's also great because we see these platforms saying we want to do something about this. We don't actually want the industry to get flooded with AI music. Now, don't come at me and say, I love Suno and I love my AI music and don't hate on my music. I'm not hating on your music. I'm just saying it's becoming a problem for people who genuinely want to make music and make money from it. And so I think it's just interesting for us to have the conversation and say, hey, some people who are not even musicians, right? And they're great at prompting, they're great at the details. And so they get this really great prompt and then they just upload and then they can release it. They can go through DistroKid or whatever, and
just like grandma,
they can just release it and fine. But at the same time, when the market is flooded and for people who are actually trying to work hard and trying to make money from their music, it makes it all the more difficult. And so
and it's funny, she's using her very, very professional radio tone to explain this, and it makes it sound so like not pleasant, but not as dire because she's such a pleasant voice. But basically what she's saying is that these platforms are starting to flag AI music, which means they're demonetizing AI music. Supreme Court demonetized AI content. And so when you have more and more people flooding the same system with AI music, and again, the artists in the previous clips didn't know these numbers. The artists didn't know these numbers. So if grandma doesn't know these numbers and her kids are all uploading music to the same platform that these artists also don't know the numbers, who gets paid and how much, right? And so she's saying it in such a pleasant tone, but she's basically saying a lady like her, because I can see the grand piano on the back. Let's say if she got on that piano and she made a piano album, she made like a solo piano album and it was really nice. How much should she get paid if she garners 1 million streams versus the girl who went into her laptop on Suno and typed in a prompt for a piano album and got 1 million streams? What do we do here, right? And so Spotify and Apple Music, they're figuring out, all right, why don't we just flag all this stuff and tell you it's AI? And then also it's looking like it's starting to hit the human artist pay pool, the pro rata pool. So let's demonetize it. We can market it. We can market your prompting skills and your engineering skills as a techie person, but you are not a musician, technically. Now, if you are a musician doing this, it confuses everyone because it makes us wonder, well, why are you doing this if not for the reasons I said earlier, like making it a supplement to what you want to do, right? I don't know how to solve that other than the culture of creation has to be a little bit monitored, maybe not restricted, but monitored, just to say, hey, he's using AI. Hey, she's using AI. Hey, that's fully human, and we need to be able to know
the details. And so they get this really great prompt and then they just upload and then they can release it. They can go through DistroKid or whatever and they can just release it and fine. But at the same time, when the market is flooded and for people who are actually trying to work hard and trying to make money from their music, it makes it all the more difficult. And so I actually appreciate this kind of AI detection. Now, I think that it does present a little bit more of a problem though for independent artists who might accidentally get taken down, right? Because I'm sure that this AI detection is not infallible. It's probably not perfect yet. And so what do you do if your music was taken down off of this streaming platform or another one that has an AI flag and you didn't use AI exclusively? Then what do you...
Exclusively is the key word. So even like with my example of using AI as a bandmate, it's possible the algorithm could be triggered and flag your music and pull it down.
And so that does present a little bit of a problem. And I think that that's something that streaming services are going to have to definitely address. So what they're saying here, a clear approach to AI music transparency, fair compensation, and action against fraud. Music generated entirely by AI has become nearly indistinguishable from human creation. And with a continuous flood of uploads of streaming platforms, our approach remains crystal clear. Transparency for fans and protecting the rights of artists and songwriters. That's CEO of Deezer. And the majority of AI music is uploaded to Deezer, he's saying, with the purpose of committing fraud, which is interesting. And so they're wanting to continue to take action. So I don't think they're saying, hey, we think AI is bad. We think nobody should ever use AI. And obviously, we talk about this on the channel all the time. It is important for us to integrate AI into our systems, into our workflows, because it's going to make you faster. It's going to make you more efficient. It's going to help you generate ideas, all of those things. But when we remove the human authorship component of it completely, then what are we left with? And I think that's the question that we're asking. And so I appreciate what he's saying here is that for their platform at least, and I'm not saying everybody, because obviously if you've uploaded a Suno track, I'm not saying you're trying to commit fraud or you're intending to commit fraud. But what he's saying for their platform, the majority of it was uploaded with the purpose of committing fraud.
And then the key thing to remember, though, I'm glad you made that distinction, is that it's not people saying AI bad. It's that bad people using AI is bad, right? You want musicians using this, but you want musicians to supplement, like she said, the workflow, creation, and ideas and stuff like that, right? But when we were looking at the dude who was showing us how they detect all this stuff, the flags that they were using to detect the music is how they're determining that, oh, this is an AI artist based on fraud, right? So now if, let's say the AI record label bro, he started then implementing AI bots to then listen to those same robots. That is fraud. He shouldn't do that, right? But what he's done is he's created basically a sound kit, that's what I like to call it, and created a bunch of beats and probably songs out of the ideas that sound kit can provide him. So it's not necessarily him committing fraud. He's just using an instrument at that point. The instrument just happens to be an AI model with a name that he gave it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this going to be something that musicians need to worry about? Is this something that you worry about? Is your favorite artist suddenly going to become just an AI rendition? I mean, they made a hologram of Tupac. Like, what's to keep you from supporting AI generated content for the sake of artists? Not because you don't like it, not because you don't agree with it, but just for the sake of like, oh, okay, well, wow, I don't want to really pay a robot. I don't want to support a robot. But let me know. This was Musician Talks with DameSmiff. We crushed another episode. I will see you guys on the next one, and make sure you leave a comment and let me know